Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Brody Sins here. We're going to go through and do some of the concept arts and, you know, see how much difference there were between the characters that ended up in 7 and 8 versus how the artist originally had planned on them. As you can tell, this page right here has got the ones from 7. You'll notice as I zoom in here, there's our Gator people, the ones that are filming the beginning of the Bakers. Um, Definitely some subtle differences here on that. Pan on over here to Mia and Ethan. Um, I kind of feel like the fact that you don't really see Ethan's face is staying true to first person perspective, I would think. Because, I mean, if you're in first person view and you try to see his face, just the way how that works. I'm sure there's some fancy words for that, but you get the idea. Mia, let's see here. She definitely looks a little different uh, than in the way they portrayed her in 7 and 8. Of course, this is all work in progress when they're making these games. They spend a lot of time and a lot of brain power trying to come up with all this stuff, and uh, God bless them, that's for sure, because they definitely the crew for 7 and 8 did an outstanding job, and I can't thank them enough for this. Uh, Both great games. There's a dog in that right side over there. Didn't really see any dogs. So, and then of course, if you look at Jack, let's go kind of jump around here. Sorry. On this right here, you got Jack. Um, that definitely does have a strong resemblance to Jack. Of course, we all know what he looks like. In the final version. Come on over here. You've got his wife, which is Marguerite, but they've actually started out with her name as Meg. Uh, Perhaps sometime during the production, getting everything started, they've maybe felt a name change was needed. Going of course more. They're basing it in Louisiana. They had to do a lot of research, and whew, I'm sure they had all kinds of names and things that were tossed to the side, but there's Marguerite, aka Meg. And over here we have Kevin, who I'm 100% sure that's supposed to be Lucas. Um, the clothes, like the hoodie and everything, yeah. Face, I don't really see it in the face too much, but man, that character was crazy in 7. I really honestly think that like they made that character like all the sadistic things that were going on. And Annabelle, which I'm 100% sure that was going to be Zoe, which, I mean, it ended up being Zoe anyway, but as you can see here, her original name was Annabelle. And then the grandma, which, of course, we all know the twist at the end of that. We've got Chris Redfield, looking a little bit different. Of course, you can see here in the director's comment, Chris was originally going to be an early middle-aged guy, but of course they changed that a little bit there. You've got excuse me, you've got the molded, which the way the molded turned out in 7 looking nothing like this, but nonetheless, and I'm gonna get rid of this display here. And you can see in the right hand corner there, you've got Evelyn. Of course, they got the same name, Evie, Evelyn. Um, She's got the same dark hair, her shirt, dress, and skirt. Don't know what she's holding. It's probably a stuffed animal or a toy. But then again, in 7, I do not recall her ever having one of those. Let's go to the next one, and we'll pop up the director's comment. Initial rough drafts of Ethan and Mia when they were not going to be married but strangers. Ethan was an investigator, Mia was a missing person. That's an interesting twist. Let me get rid of this here. That is actually kind of interesting. Maybe they'll do like I don't know, maybe it's a sequel in that direction, or maybe they'll give us like a side game where, the whole investigation of this person, being missing and everything leads to certain things. The fact that Mia was the missing person and, Ethan being the investigator, that puts a whole different spin in perspective. Starting with RE7, leading into RE8, which that's pretty interesting. I wonder how that would have turned out. We kind of zoom in a little bit here. Got him in his investigative gear. Come on over. Funny enough, I call this the Constantine pose because he ends up looking like John Constantine in this one. So maybe there was somebody on the team that likes Constantine in the comic book series. I don't know, but that's definitely a John Constantine look they got going on over there. Let's kind of zoom in here. And of course, more of Ethan. There's a little bit of it looks like an older Ethan right here. And then of course you have a picture on the phone. It's probably of Mia. And then here you have Mia. Same concept as before. Let's move. Oh, pardon me. Let's move on. All right, art director's comment. Family photo of the Bakers. When this picture was planned, the old woman and the young girl were separate characters. Now, those of us that have played 7 and have finished 7, we know entirely that at the end, Gam Gam's over there, just rolling around in her wheelchair, was actually Evelyn in some crazy form, and it was an interesting twist nonetheless, especially coming up out of that safe house, or up from that basement area, back to that safe house. You're going up the stairs and you hear somebody humming, and as you're coming around that corner, making that left, there she is, humming Go Tell Aunt Rhody, that song, Aunt Rhody. And I was just like, remember playing that going, Jesus Christ, I'm like, what the crap? Grams, go take your meds, lie down. And pan over here, you've got Lucas, of course. Now that looks a little more like Lucas with this haircut and his facial features on that one. Jack's got more of a big, thicker, longer beard. And of course, you've got Zoe and the rest of them back there. So let's move on. All right. Our director's comment. Initial rough draft of the Baker family included a wide range of bizarre characters. They included a violent father, mother made of bugs, trapper brother. Mia was practically an invisible sister, twin younger brothers, and a crazy grandma. That is interesting. I'm gonna have to say that it would have been interesting to have those in there, but giving the flow and the vibe and the feel of 7, I think that they did right by having just, those people, those bosses in there, the mother, the son, the father, and then of course, Zoe was not an enemy, but, part of that, I think they did that perfectly on there at the final part of that. Look over here, you got servant, father, son, and dog, which led me to believe that just by the way this is, as I pan down here, that the son, on this one right here, the way the dog's carrying the arm, like he definitely would have used that like in a hunting sense, or like how And he trained a dog to just do things, and that's sort of a ramble on, but you get the idea. He would definitely. That'd have been an interesting boss fight. Maybe that'll come in later, video games down the road and stories. But that's interesting. I'm not gonna lie about that. Now here's the thing right here. This morbid looking person right here, that shape almost definitely looks like the shape of in 8 after you defeat Miranda, and I can't pronounce the words, you have to forgive me. That's definitely like that shape, and also it slightly reminds me of I call it the Freddy Krueger baby, that damn baby with. That was probably one of the creepiest things in the game. Kind of get that little vibe with that too. Obviously, this would have been a different character from 7. It didn't happen, but nonetheless, that was creepy. And pan over here, on the right hand side, that definitely looks like maybe. Let me see here. It's either going to be Jack or it could be that servant that's also in the left corner over here. He's got the lantern. Let's pan back. Yeah, he's probably like a servant type. And then you've got these weird, creepy twins, of course, and that's either going to be Mia. I think it's going to be Mia. Yeah. Or possibly Zoe. Move on. Another rough draft of the Bakers has each member associated with a particular color. Jack was yellow, of course. That shirt color was what he has, like a darker yellowish type thing. But he definitely had that shirt. Marguerite was purple. Lucas was blue, and Zoe was red. Pardon me. That's interesting. Interesting color schemes on like why they tried to go with that. Maybe just representing like this level had this color, this level had this color type thing. I'm sure there's a deeper meaning to that. Here we go with the art director's comment. Rough draft of Evelyn, Chris, and Dave. The young boy in the middle was originally the youngest Baker, Remy, but he was cut. Evelyn ended up taking his place. That's interesting. Okay. So they were going to have like a younger son, which, again, who knows how that would have played out as far as the story goes. Now, I do want to say the officer, he looks almost spot on. It's just one of those, pardon me, I'm yawning because I had a late night last night, and I got very little sleep. I have to apologize for that. So yeah, and then there's the middle-aged Chris Redfield. It would be really interesting to see how that would have turned out, having like a younger son like that. Again, cut for purposes. Oh, look at this. Art director's comment. Jack's glasses were his key focal point for his character during early developments. The image on the right is of his chainsaw fight, and we all know that damn chainsaw fight. And of course, there was an Evil Dead reference in there. Of course, Jack's going for chainsaws, and says, "Isn't this groovy?" I'm going to say that's an Evil Dead reference with Bruce Campbell, aka Ash, getting his chainsaw arm after he had to lop it off. And if you had never seen the movie, it's a great movie. I mean, it really is. It's an older movie. Of course, there's Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn. There was Army of Darkness, which Army of Darkness wasn't as scary. It was more fantasy with comical thing. And enough on that rant, but please go see it. Bruce Campbell's great. Now, Jack here, of course, reading that little thing about us being his focal point, battle mechanics, fighting, knock off his glasses or do something like that. Of course, there's no telling how that would have played out, but here's how I imagine it. Take out his glasses, shoot him off, knock it off, whatever. he's got to spend time searching for his glasses, or just flailing his arms around. Eventually, knock off his glasses. He can't see, which would lead eventually to his death. Um, that's only speculation. And then the chainsaw, of course, those that played Seven know exactly. That was an interesting battle, nonetheless. The only thing that I didn't like was you didn't get to keep the chainsaw. That really made me mad. Like, oh, one of the most powerful weapons in the game, you didn't get to keep it. And again, this is just me running on a rant. You get the chainsaw, you're in first person view, Doom music intensifies. Right, art director's comment. The left shows an early design for a mutated Jack, where he looked more like himself, but this was later changed so the player could easily identify his weak points. Yes, and I'll get into that in a second. The picture on the right is a design for Mia's colleague, Alan. All right. So, Jack. On his final mutation, he's like this weird, multi-eyed creature-looking thing, and excuse me. Oh man, late night. One of the things that I noticed in that fight was, of course, the whole weak points, his eyes, and really, this battle, it was good, but for me, the chainsaw battle is going to be the best fight in 7. Okay, one of the best fights in 7. The other one is, obviously, I'm going to say Marguerite, trying to shoot her in her blue waffle. Yes, if you look it up on many videos and many message boards and, just in streaming and whatever, I'm sure I'm not the only one that talks about the blue waffle and Marguerite. If you've never played 7, you're battling Marguerite, aim for the blue waffle, aka the hive coming out her lower bottom. Art director's comment. One idea for Marguerite's mutated form was originally thought up a design similar to earlier Resident Evil games, with lots of body parts coming out of her, but we ended up going for a new and refreshing design. I'll agree with that. She did have a spider hunting vibe on her, but she didn't turn into, on the left panel we have over here. Honestly, thank God she didn't do that. I liked the way how they had her. Limbs elongated, the way she crawled up the wall. What else? Just all in all, like that, the way they had that on her as her final form, I agree that was like the best way to go. Fun fact: there is a trophy you can get when battling Marguerite. You would actually she crawls up the wall, and you have to time this right because when she crawls up the wall and jumps at you, you ain't got but like a split second. But you have to be able to shoot her as she's coming down, and it's like to either knock her back or stop her from getting on top of you, but it'll trigger a trophy. So there's a little hint for you. Art director's comment. Let's see here. Designed for Evelyn's final form, enlarged by mold. When we were designing her, we had to show each department how every part of her fit together with the head in the center. Interesting. Of course, that is dealing with the end of the game. So, and then that one right there, like eventually, like you'll kill her. You just gotta keep firing. It'll happen, and then they'll trigger a cutscene when getting the samurai edge and Chris coming out, and and then just like a after scene with that. So, these are rough drafts of Evelyn's final form. Her old woman form transforms into a giant monster that absorbed her body. Yes, that happened eventually after you inject her with medicine or antivirus, whatever it is. Um, it'd be revealed that she was the older grandma figure in the wheelchair, transforms into, of course, a super crazy beast. Let's see here. The main antagonists were the Baker family. So the designs of the general monsters, the molded, were some of the hardest ones. They needed to stand out without taking attention away from the Bakers. The Bakers look realistically human thanks to a technique using scanned photographs. So we wanted the molded to not outshine them. Again, as far as development and story goes, I agree with that. Bakers have to be the main focus. They have to have the attention of the gamer. And with them looking more human, even though they have like this weird abilities about them, it makes you realize like, hey, they're human, but there's something wrong with them. Uh, Now the molded monsters, I mean, they look like monsters. Of course, you're going to have that feel like, hey, it's a monster, I got to get out of here, or I got to defend myself. There's different levels of emotion and connection and connectivity when you have a human that has monstrous traits or can do things versus this is a monster. I mean, you're automatically supposed to be feeling a certain way about monsters. So enough of that. Designed for the four-legged molded. The name molded comes from mold and transformed. Interesting. We wanted the enemy names in Resident Evil 7 to be ones that the Baker family might have come up with themselves. I can see that. I can definitely, there's definitely some experimenting going on, and there's a lot of things that, that family went through and because of Evelyn, so I can see that. Design for the fat molded. In the bottom right, you can see how the molded are made. Victims are kept in cages covered with mold, then left for 2 or 3 days to return. Ooh. Okay, and of course, there's the bathtub because in one of the parts that you have to get a puzzle piece or something out of, there's a bathtub, you got to pull the drain plug on it, and it's got that thick goo, like something had been in there. Oh, it's crazy. The moment the molded are born. Yep. Again, that was in like a basement workshop of horrors deal. So, if I remember right, there was like 1, 2, 3, probably like 6 to 8 in that basement. Rough draft for a type of white molded that was axed. This was going to be a female variety that had tentacles resembling hair. Underneath the hair was a mouth-like appendage that extends out and attacks. There were also early development plans to have an antibody gun that would have been effective against the molded. That totally reminds me of those white creatures, regenerators, I think they're called, from the other Resident Evil games, where like no matter how many times you shot at them, oh my god, they just kept coming back. So I can see where they would want to carry that on into this. Um, Oddly enough, this may be me. Let me focus on that here. This picture right here, that body form almost looks like a little bit like Marguerite's final form. Her hair, the way that lower section, starting from like her stomach down and underneath, you can kind of look like maybe that's where they put that little hive where their insects are at, or I wonder if that was the case. Interesting, nonetheless. Designs for Marguerite's creepy crawlies. From the top, there are adult and young man-eating insects, as well as man-eating spiders that live in doorways. Forget them spiders. I burnt them. Let's see. They were made pallid in order to appear less repulsive. Insects found in some real abandoned buildings in Louisiana were used for reference. Okay, I am from Lake Charles, Louisiana. I moved there a long time ago, lived there for good. Let's see. Um, 10 years, give or take. And I can tell you, in Louisiana, doesn't matter what building you're in, if you're outside, doesn't matter. These bugs are damn near like spot on. They have huge insects and spiders in Louisiana. One of the things that I hated was whenever we went out to say the lake or camping or in that whole thing, like bugs everywhere. And it's not that I'm afraid of bugs. Um, they bother me because, again, this is going on a tangent. This is just FYI about me. I've got that deal where, like, I don't know what it is. They're attracted to me. Heat, my blood type, all those stupid, crazy scientific or speculative factors play in, blah, blah, blah. But yes, these bugs are pretty much spot on. Art from early development of Resident Evil 7. This was the moment we decided the setting, and from there the whole game was based in the American South. I was about to say South America, sorry about that. Wow. I'm looking at this and this just speaks American South. This speaks this is no lie. Like, this home could literally be Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi. Those are my three that's like how I picture it. There's no other way to explain it. God, that's crazy. Also getting a very heavy Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibe from this one, so. The main dining room inside the house. There weren't plans for a main house and a guest house at this point, which I can see that in game development. It's like, hey, we're going to have this particular spot, and it's like, well, wait a minute, let's do this to add, things build and things are taken away. It's just a process of finding the right flow, finding the right feel, finding the right time of certain things. You don't want something to be too quick or too slow, or it's just they have to find a happy medium. Let's see, this was drawn when we were coming up with the ideas for the guest house and trying to work out the size and layout of the house. Wow. Let's get rid of that there. Now, that hallway on the left, I can tell you in 7, those stairs, they lead up into like an attic area. Of course, there was like another set of stairs you had to trigger. Going down that hallway, there was another door. And then, if you turn your right, there was, into like a little living area. So, I mean, that one on the left is definitely pretty darn close. So, an underground area where the family kept a terrifying monster that needed a large feeding hatch. Oh boy. Well, wouldn't be a Resident Evil game without something like that, that's for sure. Early concept art of the guest house. The size is close to the final version, but the light coming in made it less scary. The final version was a lot darker. I agree. It was a lot darker. This right here is just spot on. So crazy. Oh, it's so beautiful. I love how they did this. Let's see. Concept art for the guest house living room. This became the room where the VCR was found in the release version of the game. Yes, this is true. This layout became too difficult to understand and navigate in-game, So it got a complete overhaul. Really? Huh. Um, I didn't play the demo. I played the actual game itself, so I don't know what was. I don't know. Can't really comment on that. Oh, excuse me. Let's see here. Concept art for the second floor of the guest house. This was changed to the third floor with a hidden staircase added. Yes, indeed. Let's see. Concept art showing Andre's corpse in the guest house basement. One initial idea was to have the player take the flashlight from Andre's body. Huh. Interesting. Of course, if memory serves me correctly, at the end of the found footage thing with the sewer gators, I think is what it's called, you end up finding Andre's body in that massive, dirty puddle of water as you're going through the house. So, ugh. I remember that was one of the first jump scares. Concept art for the scene in the guest house where Mia crawls up the stairs towards Ethan. Yes. Okay. In all seriousness, wow, 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 wow. When like the door, I remember the banging of the door, and I had my headphones on playing this. And I'm focusing on what's going on and hearing that. I mean, that I really thought somebody was at the door. So I took my headphones off, and I'm like, what the crap, But then again, when you're so focused and enthralled in what's going on, just lose sense. The final design of the main house was based on-site research of Louisiana. The outside of the Baker's home is based on plantation houses that date back to the American Civil War and the era of slavery in the United States. Very true. The way this house is designed and everything they've got going for it, plantation homes are huge. That was like status quo of having plantation houses. You were balling back then. A rough design of the main house. Initial plans had a windmill in the front yard, but later research revealed there are no windmills in Louisiana. Here's the thing with that. Let me move on. The house was also surrounded by open land and not the bayou, which didn't make it feel like a horror game at all. Okay, we'll get rid of that and I'll go into that. First off, the windmill part. I agree with that. Now, here's the thing. If you put a windmill, like the one you see here, okay, let's go back. All right, this is going to give it a Midwestern feel, or like being out there, like open plains areas and stuff like that. Um, that's how you would see that image in the United States. That's how I would say a good percentage of people would perceive that as. Now, being on an open land like this, again, it's like, hey, are we in Kansas or some flat plains, Midwest thing? Putting the bayou in it, getting rid of the windmill, and having you surrounded by that bog and the sounds of the creatures. And I've lived in Louisiana. I'm telling you, that is some real scary stuff. It gets on your nerves. It's like, oh, what is that? What's out in the bog? What's out in the bayou? So they did right. Let's see here. The talisman design for Resident Evil 7, made by Jack out of a cow head and legs. We base it on an image of mold, bacteria, and cells. Okay. Interesting. There you go. Don't really have anything to say on that one, but there you go. Let's see here. Early development concept art for the main house. The final version did not have you enter through the front door. The layout for the second floor was also completely different. 100% correct. If you've played this, you know what they're talking about. In the end, smart decision. The dining room of the main house had a completely different feel from the final version. The room and lighting atmosphere changed after on-site research. One of the biggest differences was the main table. It used to be square, but we found a round table in a Louisiana home which better suited the family coming together. Yes. Okay. So, lighting, agree. Now, the whole round table thing, sitting in a circle with your family and your friends, is going to make you feel closer. You're not like as far away with a square table, of course, dealing with end to end. So, yes, I agree with that. Overall, better aesthetic choice. The garage in the main house that you fight Jack in. Initial plans have the garage and boiler together in a single room. That's interesting. Now, as you can tell here in this picture right here, this is of course not the final version of the garage at all, which is interesting because how many of you struggled to get the keys to the car and run over Jack a few times before doing that cutscene? So yes, in case if you don't know by now, which I mean, after all these years, people mostly know, but if you don't, in Resident Evil 7, in the garage scene after he takes care of the sheriff, you have an opportunity to run away from Jack and get the keys to the car, and that will trigger a scene where you're hitting him with the car. So, there you go. The sunlit entrance hall in the main house. This is very different from the final version with the grandfather clock in the center and curved stairs. Huh. Now, in the final form, you have the curved stairs. And you have like another room, like if you're facing where this is facing, you're looking straight at the clock. Instead, there was like a room that had a shotgun in it. And then to the left was another room, and you had to do like a shadow puzzle. So, until the final version, early concept art included a large open yard. Obviously, that changed. It was more of an enclosed yard with like that little trailer there that was like a safe house. This concept art for the entrance hall is much closer to the final version. The room is full of furniture and several taxidermed animals, giving it a lived-in feel. And of course, there's Jack. And there's Fan. Okay, so there's the staircase. Both stairs. Well, one of the staircases because you had two that went up, but concept art for one of the shadow puzzles in the main house. These rooms needed to be used for fights and puzzles, so we tried to make them as disconcerting as possible. And there you go. Of course, that first room with the shadow deal, with the shadow puzzle wasn't equal. There's another one of a shadow. Alright, that one, yeah, Lucas's room, that one, you had to get like the key card to go into this room, or this little area that Lucas had built. It's like a torture thing, it's like a whole Saw vibe, all these different traps and stuff. Ah, yes, the different keys. The crow key, scorpion key, snake key, and their doors. On the right is a design for the three-headed dog relief. Which, of course, to get the last one, or, well, yeah, it would be the last one, didn't matter what order you went. You had to go try to get it from Jack, and you would have a chainsaw fight. Groovy. Concept art for the yard. There was always plans to have a trailer in the center of the yard trapped by the house around it. Interesting. Early on during development, Zoe's room was not going to be the trailer, but her room in the main house, which Ethan saves her from. The room was going to have a sort of Louisiana folklore theme. Now, I don't know if... I'm pretty sure that's either a direct result of her being sick, because of the way they molded and everything, but I'm pretty sure those are just tattoos. So, the old house was once situated on solid ground, but was flooded by a hurricane, which is why it was separated from the main house and barricaded up. Louisiana is a region that is often hit by major hurricanes. We wanted to show that the Baker family were impacted by that too. Okay, 100% accurate. Being in Louisiana, I know about hurricanes, and yes, that does happen. And it's sad that it happens. You have to spend money and time doing these sort of things, rebuilding and moving things around, but it's a fact. You can see dolls in this concept art for the old house. We left objects associated with children all over the house because that was where Evelyn's room is. 100%. And Evelyn's room was there, and it was creepy. A web covered room lit up inside the old house. Bugs. This concept art for the old house shows an image of a room with a severely damaged floor. Beyond that, you can see the staircase that leads up to the child's room. Marguerite walks down the corridor with a candle to receive mold from Evelyn. The destruction is the room was caused by a hurricane. I think they meant the destruction in the room. But as you can see, Marguerite, of course, she chases you with a lantern, screaming, "We were good enough for you," and blah, blah, blah. Oddly enough, if you want to get a trophy for that, while you're in that video and you're Mia running away, if you hide from her and are not spotted until you get into the tunnel at the very end of that video, you unlock a trophy. The jetty behind the old house that leads to the bayou. The crow key is kept away from the house in a remote location so no one can get it. Yes, I was. And bugs. Concept for an overgrown greenhouse where Marguerite used to grow her plants. It was once a beautiful greenhouse, but turned to ruin when Evelyn arrived. This is the location for the boss fight with Marguerite. Yes. Oh my god. Oh, it was a very interesting fight. But, like I said earlier, if you just keep aiming for the blue waffle and just keep blasting away, you'll get there. Art concept for mutated Marguerite. Her arms and legs are warped in a terrifying way as she relentlessly pursues Ethan. The child's room in the old house that Evelyn lives. It's full of toys for girls, like a dollhouse and dolls. These dolls are unlike the ones in the entrance to the old house and are based on the molded. Evelyn grows her family ever larger with the mold. Yes, she does. A lot. A temporary design for the room behind the child's room where a life-size doll is seated instead of Evelyn. Creepy. I'm a little creepy, boy. Oh my god, it's creepy. The final design for the room behind the child's room where you can find the body of the D series. The ceiling was made to be low to give it a claustrophobic feel. Yes, it did. Concept art for Lucas's section of the game, where you enter the room there are black lights which make it feel almost like a nightclub. This was to give players a new, different sense of fear from the rest of the family. Blue and white were the key colors for Lucas. Let's Play written on the entrance to Lucas's section of the game. This was the section that eventually led you to his birthday party room, where you had to solve a series of puzzles to get out of there. Continue into Lucas's area and it expands into white rooms, plastic sheeting. Halfway through development, we decided to make tripwire bombs Lucas's main weapon of choice. Yes, they did. We wanted to make the design for Lucas's area different from a traditional haunted house. His avant-garde interests really stand out. It was difficult to get the right balance between crazy and comical. Sometimes they're one and the same. Concept art for when the four-legged molded first appeared in Lucas's section. More concept art for Lucas's area. That's the birthday party room. Art. Okay, you can see a number of strange puzzles scattered about Lucas's section in this piece. They are based not just on Lucas's twisted interests, but the concepts of family and life and death. Such as birthday cake being a symbol for life, while a picture of a hanging corpse and grave are connected to death, the goddess's stomach symbolizing life, but is also accompanied by pain. The mold infection does not have a strong grip on Lucas. As a result, he is filled with the most hopelessness, joy, and desire for destruction. Wow. Concept art for a cut boat fight when Mia and Ethan escape the house. The idea was that the fight with Jack would take place in the muddy waters. Interesting. Alright, well, that's the first 60 concept art. I'm going to go ahead and I'll make another video later on, and we'll do some more later.